to Colonel Mahamadou Seydou Magaji. Please.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to speak today on climate and security. My remarks will focus on issues and alternatives from my part of the world, the African Sahel. I will start by addressing the extent to which climate change is impacting the livelihood of citizens, then examine the broader consequences of climate change on regional security before highlighting Niger's role in alleviating climate change, and finally formulating some recommendations to the United Nations. Excellencies, there are few places in the world where climate change is more real than in the Sahel. In the best of conditions, the Sahel is a challenging place, particularly for farmers and herders, two of the common ways people make a living in the Sahel. Already high temperatures, oscillating on average between 25 to 45 degrees centigrade, are on the rise and projected increase by 2.5 degrees centigrade by 2060 in the Sahel. As global temperature rise, annual rainfalls in the Sahel are becoming highly variable in intensity and frequency. This leads over the years to frequent heavy rains, floods, strong winds, sandstorms, and droughts. In Niger, for instance, 85% out of 3,702 natural disaster events that occurred between years 1973 to 2014 took place from 2001 to 2014. High temperatures also mean increased evaporation of the already scarce surface water in the Sahel, contributing to severe droughts. These changes in weather bring hardship to the Sahel's peoples, since 80% of the Sahel population depend on activities sensitive to climate change for their livelihood. Livelihoods handed down through generations are at risk as water tables dry up, crops yields diminish, and desert slowly overtakes once fertile lands. All of this change is bound to have adverse consequences for regional peace and security, for many reasons. First, it directly affects personal income living standards. Because of the year 2012 combined floods and droughts, millions of Sahelians were further impoverished as they lost their crops and cattle. In whole West Africa, 19 million people were affected. Second, the change in weather and its resulting natural disasters exacerbate an already intense competition among the rural population, especially farmers and herders, for scarce natural resources such as land, water, and pasture. It is not surprising that in Niger, most of conflicts between rural people occurred between farmers and herders. Farmer and herders competition is worsening in central Mali and northern Nigeria, with a growing death toll. Considering future weather forecasts for the region and keeping in mind that the Sahel has one of the highest population growth rates in the world, approximately 3% a year, this competition is likely to increase. Third, many people are forced to migrate if they are to survive. In cases where migrants settle for a long period of time, risks of conflicts arise. In worst-case scenarios, some individuals, mostly youth, turn to illegal activities as a means of coping with the impact of climate change. A survey conducted last year by my institution, CNESS, in the Lake Chad part of Niger, revealed that the successive floods of the year 2012 and 2013 boosted Boko Haram recruitment in the region as young people who lost their crops turned to the violent extremist movement as an alternative. Further, a landmark study conducted recently by Adelphi linked climate change and conflict dynamics in a vicious circle. In the Lake Chad region, climate change increases the likelihood of conflict, while conflict undermines the ability of communities to cope and adapt to climate change. Although the above trends can fuel conflicts, the link between climate change and conflict is not always straightforward. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, recent studies agree that climate change is but one among many drivers of conflict. In essence, climate change should be seen as a threat multiplier. High levels of poverty and low levels of state capacity are often more influential drivers of conflict. In the Central Sahel, for instance, the International Crisis Group's April 2020 report revealed that climate change has indirect link to conflict through disruption of tenuous balance between pastoral and agricultural production systems to the detriment of herders. In central Mali, this partly explains the increasing tensions between sedentary and nomadic pastoralists over access to land and pastures. The report stresses that in many instances, the inability of nation-states to adequately handle these tensions leads to violent conflict. Indeed, the spread of conflict in the region is linked less to dwindling resources and transformation of models of production, resulting in poorly regulated competition over access to increasing coveted resources. Excellencies, from the foregoing, it appears that climate change is a one factor among others driving conflict in the Sahel. However, the expected global warming and its consequences on humans across the world, particularly in the Sahel, will exacerbate security risks. These situations calls our individual and collective responsibility to prepare for our generation and the next one. Mr. President, Excellencies, in response to climate change in the Sahel, Niger's national initiatives and regional leadership are making a positive impact. Internally, Niger adopted innovative policies, strategies, programs, and initiatives aimed at mitigating climate change effects and strengthening its population resilience. For example, a landmark initiative 3N, entitled Nigerians Nourishing Nigerians, enables Niger to avoid famines in spite of drought. Thanks to this initiative, Niger did not experience famine since 2011 and succeeded already in 2012, before schedule, to reduce by 50% the part of its population threatened by food insecurity. At the sub-regional level, Niger is actively taking part to diverse climate actions. Since 1974, Niger is hosting the Agrimet Regional Center in charge of weather forecast and food security in the Sahel. In addition, since 2016, Niger is head of the Climate Commission for the Sahel, comprising 17 African countries and aimed at facilitating the implementation of Paris Agreement in the sub-region. Finally, I would like to propose the following recommendations on how the UN could better assist countries around the world to mitigate climate security risks. First, conduct an integrated climate security assessment before involving in-country assistance. Second, assist in building national and local capabilities to monitor and manage climate change effects. Third, task UN country teams who are in contact with relevant government bodies to collect authoritative information on the impact of climate-related security risk in conflict settings and make those results available to UN member states. Fourth, ensure that United Nations Development Assistance Framework, UNDEF, fully includes climate-related security risks and management with due consideration to gender. Then strengthen the United Nations platform for space-based information for disaster management and emergency response, called UN SPIDER, to add a component of climate-related security risk assessment that will be made available to the UN Security Council. And last, establish and sustain a UN climate security risk management coordination mechanism. Thank you for your kind attention.
Colonel, thank you very much for your briefing. And